Am I wrong for going off my husband and his mom for taking/keeping my used pregnancy test? Ew, what the F? I, female 24, found out I was pregnant very recently. My husband, male 34, and his family are beyond happy and excited. From what I heard, my husband was married 2 times before but couldn't have kids for 10 years. This is obviously a huge deal for his family because his mom will be a first-time grandma with this baby. They threw a celebration dinner for us, and as his mom and I were talking about the baby, she told me about how she already started making memories and started having keepsakes for her grandbaby. I felt a bit confused and asked if my husband bought something for the baby and gave it to her. She said no, but he did bring her my used pregnancy test and gave it to her to store as a memory. Wait, this is weird. I did it again. Hold on. She said no, but he did bring her my used pregnancy test and gave it to her to store as a memory of the news of her grandbaby's existence. I was floored. I looked at my husband like, did you really do that? And he nodded while smiling. Not gonna lie, I felt creeped out, disgusted, and very uncomfortable. After the initial shock, I just went off on both of them, calling what they did creepy and disgusting and highly violating. My husband argued that it was not a huge deal, and he just grabbed the test once I got rid of it and put it in a plastic bag and gifted it to his mom as a keepsake. I told him it made me feel violated and creeped out because that test had my literal pee on it. His mom then said something about taking care of the smell, and I lashed out even more and demanded they get rid of it, but they kept arguing, calling me controlling. You know, shocker, another keepsake, you can get her an ultrasound test and give one to her, say, here, this is for you. You don't gotta keep her pee stick. Brother-in-law asked me to calm down, but I decided to just grab my stuff and go home. My husband started arguing about how this is all just an overreaction and said that I ruined his and his family's joy by how I behaved after finding out about the pregnancy test. He said for him and his mom, it's all about the baby, but I somehow made this whole thing about me and hurt their feelings in the process. But that was my literal pee on that test, and I just couldn't help but flip out even if it ruined their joy for the news. So did I overreact? The top comment says, I think I see why at 34 you're his third wife.
In high school, this guy named Andrew got super pissed off at me because I spit on him accidentally, out of accident. He was sitting across the lunch table from me, and my problem is I can't hold in laughter, ever. If you wanted to murder me and get away with it, I'm gonna tell you how to do it. The way to do it is to tell a joke while I'm eating a carrot and just let nature take care of the rest. I would be done. I worry about that so often. Whenever I'm alone in my house eating carrots, I'm always like, oh man, I hope nothing funny happens after I take a bite of this carrot. So I'm minding my business, drinking my chocolate milk, and Andrew cracks a joke right at that moment. And I did like a full spit take all over his face, and he was pissed, right? Anybody would be upset if you spit anything all over them, frankly, so he had every right to be upset. But what bothered me about his upsetness and what made me get counter upset was that he acted like I did it on purpose. He jumped up from the lunch table and he was like, oh my God, why would you do that? And I said, I'm so sorry, it was an accident. I'll go get you some napkins. And he said, what do you mean it was an accident? You don't just accidentally spit on people. And I was just like, but you joke, you made it funny. You were in the splash zone. It was an accident. It just happened. And he said, did you think that was funny? Was this some bit? Were you trying to make a joke? And I said, no, I would never spit on anybody without their consent. And what really offended me about that statement was that he seemed to think that my sense of humor was just to go around assaulting people with dairy, which I would never do. Like he seemed like he thought that I was just sitting at the lunch table drinking my chocolate milk, waiting for the perfect moment to do a spit take. Like, oh man, this is gonna kill. This is really gonna bring the house down. So now I was upset also because he accused me of being an absolute hack. So he's being incredibly accusatory. I was finally like, listen, Linda, listen. I don't know what else to prove. I don't know what to say. I don't know how to prove to you that it was an accident. I would never do that on purpose. I'm really sorry. I'm gonna go get you some napkins. And I don't know who said what when I left the lunch table, but when I came back, his entire energy had changed, like his whole vibe. He was completely relaxed. He somehow did believe it was an accident all of a sudden. He was like, we're good. I suspect it was because he had a fat crush on my best friend at the time, so probably I left the lunch table. She said, dude, cool your nuts. Kate can't help that sometimes she explodes dairy out of both ends, because I am lactose intolerant. And he was in love with her, so he was nice to me after that.
I, 28, like many women, have learned due to the pandemic, I don't have to dress up to society's ridiculous beauty standards. Before, I used to dress to the nines and made sure that I was always wearing heavy makeup. James Charles Dicky Tutorials level of makeup, and made sure that my skin was unblemished and as smooth as a baby's skin, and we're not even going to get started on my hair situation. Well, my husband, 30, is annoyed by this. He said he liked my old look and he's embarrassed to go out with me now that I've decided to be a lazy slob. I told him that I still dress up when we go to dinner and dates, and when we have important occasions. I just don't feel like wearing makeup and heels to go to the grocery store or clean the toilet anymore. He said it wasn't that hard to put on some makeup and shave, so I told him that if he thought so, then to prove it. Go through the same treatment I go through to look good, as he put it. He agreed because if I've been doing it for years, how hard could it be? He learned how painful waxing is soon after. He learned how long it takes a woman with thick, long, waist-length hair to wash, dry, and style it. He learned how uncomfortable wearing certain outfits every day was for me, and since he wanted me to start wearing makeup, he had to as well. He was into deep, so he let me do his makeup. I didn't go full drag, I only did some stuff that would enhance its features, yet show him how much effort goes into makeup. Needless to say, after a full day of this, he told me that he was sorry and didn't realize how much work I put into my appearance. I told him to imagine now the women who go around getting lip fillers and Botox. He laughed and said thank God I wasn't that high maintenance. We both had a laugh about it and I felt like I proved my point. Here's the issue. He was talking to his sisters and told them what I did, which they found hilarious because they too also feel it's about time men understand how much work women put into their looks. Well, he told his mom what I did, and now she's been calling and texting me about how I abused her son, how it's a woman's duty to look good for her husband, and how I'm going to drive him away by being a lazy slob, and to not be surprised when I end up divorced or cheated on. I ignored her, but my husband's now defending me from his mother, and she's mad that he's defending me. Am I the asshole for putting my husband through my makeup routine?
Am I the asshole for holding my wedding at the same venue as my first husband's funeral?
That's so me. That's so some shit I would do.
Oh, okay. Well, let's see. Let's get the context. Last summer, my first husband passed away after being in a car accident a month before. The doctors expected him to pull through, yet be paralyzed from the waist down. But he already had health problems, and the trauma from the accident ultimately prevailed. I and his parents organized a funeral at a spacious old Catholic cathedral. I kept thinking to myself the whole time, this place is too beautiful for a funeral. For some reason, it felt wrong having such a sad occasion there. I even remember wishing that I had married my first husband there instead of the outdoor wedding we had. Fast forward to early 2022. I reunited with an ex-boyfriend of mine from years before. We started dating again. And
it's always the ex. It's always the one they told you not to worry about.
And before we knew it, we were engaged. I've been criticized a lot for how fast I moved on, but I guess everyone heals differently. We started planning for the wedding in March. The wedding hasn't happened yet. It will be in May. And we decided that we'd have it at the same cathedral where my first husband's funeral was held. I'm still in contact with my first husband's parents, and they were happy for me when I told them I was dating and when I got engaged. In a phone call, my first husband's mother asked about the wedding, so I said that they could come if they wanted to. She seemed a bit taken aback at first, so I totally thought I screwed up, but she then said she'd love to. Then I told her that it would be held at the same cathedral as my first husband's funeral. And ... She went off on me. I don't know how to explain what happened other than to just write the conversation down. Me. We will be marrying at the blank cathedral. Silence. Her. I just can't believe it. Believe what? Silence. I'm sorry. This is just appalling to me. Me. I want to have our wedding there in honor of first husband. I would have married him there if I knew about the place. Silence. Her. You're moving on too quickly. You need to slow down. Think of how first husband would feel. You can't replace him. You've moved on. You've moved on. Blank first husband's name hasn't moved on. He will never move on.
'Cause he's dead.
And I'm sure if he were alive, he'd want to. Me, I'm sorry. She hangs up the phone. I haven't spoken to her or her husband since. I'm still planning on having me and my fiance's wedding there, but it just puts a bad taste in my mouth knowing that my first husband's parents are against it. But after all, they aren't involved in the wedding anyways, so I don't see why they should have a say. I wish they'd at least support me because I've been to hell and back. I'm in a better place and they don't like to see me happy. But I also kind of feel selfish since they aren't. Am I the asshole?
Definitely the asshole.
Yeah.
There's a million places you could have your wedding. And like, I understand her like thought process of like, I'm honoring, but I think if that's the way that you're thinking right now, then you're still in one of the fucking 5 stages of grief. You might still be in denial, babe.
Am I the asshole for smearing cake on my daughter's face on her birthday? My daughter's 18th birthday was yesterday, and on the eve of her birthday, my son, who's 16, told me about his idea. He said we should smash cake and whipped cream on his big sister's face when she woke up. I thought this would be funny and make my daughter laugh first thing on her birthday, so I agreed to do it with him. I would say my biggest regret here is not telling my wife about the plan. My daughter woke up at 8 yesterday, and when she first came to the breakfast table, my son and I were waiting. We pounced and each grabbed a slice of chocolate cake and smeared it into her face, and I yelled happy birthday. My wife yelled at me and my daughter looked shocked. Am I the asshole for smearing cake on my daughter's face on her birthday? My wife came to our daughter's rescue and started yelling at me while my daughter was just dumbfounded and shocked. My son and I realized we made a mistake and apologized, and my daughter went to take a shower. The rest of the day was smooth sailing and my daughter had a fun birthday besides the morning incident. However, she was still clearly upset at her brother and I. My wife lectured me before we slept about what happened. I get the feeling that my daughter is still upset at my son and I. Am I the asshole?